heute spielen wir Musik, Ballerie und Pallara, manche schöne Melodie, Ballerie und Pallara. Es sind schon viele da, aus dem Lande fern und nah, Balleralala, es ist so schön, ein Musikant zu sein, denn wir sind fähig, was auch immer kommen mag, es ist so schön, ein Musikant zu sein, wir bringen Glück in jeden grauen Tag, es ist so schön, ein Musikant zu sein, denn wir sind fähig, was auch immer kommen mag, es ist so schön, sehr schön, ein Musikant zu sein, wir bringen Glück in jeden grauen Tag, auf den Marmor! Ein Musikant zu sein, denn wir sind fähig, was auch immer kommen mag, es ist so schön. Ein Musikant zu sein, wir bringen Glück in jeden grauen Tag. Das ist schön, sehr freundlich. Wir sind schon wieder da und viele Leute sind da. Wer kann Deutsch? Sie und 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. When I was asked to do this, I wanted 3 days because I want to tell you the whole history of Germany and everything, because I was a German teacher for 31 years and I had a great grandmother. I mean, my grandmother. I mean, she was great. See, English is what, but so we're going to do, and I thought little children would be here, see, who was wondering, where did English come from? Why do we don't sound like the Spanish? Why don't we say mano for hand? Why don't we say maison for a house? Why do we say house mouse just like the Germans? Well, I'm going to tell you the quickest you ever heard, so you won't be bored, because we're going to get back to the music real quick. All right, the Anglo-Saxons that were in the 3rd and 4th century, they go over to England that had the Celtic peoples, the Britons, and they were all of a sudden these blonde, blue-eyed Germans with the long beards, you know. Stand up and be my model for me. Okay. Yeah, Anglo-Saxon look, Dankeschön. So they came over and they drove the Scots in the pits, and they've had problems ever since. And then we have West Saxon, Essex, East Saxon. See, they changed Saxon to sex. Bad kids are. But that Sussex, South Saxon, Kent. Okay, all right. Here's your. I cannot hold a mic. God made me loud. I'm as loud as Martin Luther. You heard of him, didn't you? Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's we're not talking about him. The old one that changed the German language. Anyhow, if. So real quick, German lesson for children. Say after me. Der Finger, die Hand, der Arm, Ellenbogen, Nase, Lippe, Kinn, Doppelkinn. See, you understood. Now, if I did that in Spanish, and why is, well, okay, they brought their Low German. Now, some of you had grandparents said we speak Low German, especially Iowa and parts of Michigan and places like that. In Sheboygan, Wisconsin, Low German, Plattdeutsch, they said, "What is that?" And the High German, "Was ist das?" And then there's another 1,000 different ways. German is not a united language. When did Germany become a country? The Romans came 2,000 years ago, Augsburg and Trier, and they put their baths. Those nasty Romans all the time had, you know what bathhouses are. Your mama didn't want you to go in there. And that's what they were. And the Germans, in fact, afterwards, Christianity said, don't bathe, because those lousy Romans did. They only bathed twice a year in Europe for a long time. Plague and all that came. But they don't put this in most of the history books. So anyhow, the Germans spoke each tribe their own kind of German. And Germany doesn't become a country before or after our Civil War. After 1871. War with France, Franco-Prussian War, they call it over here. 1871, Bismarck, you've heard of him. We got a place in Dakotas there, named after him. And so we have that. And so now we're moving up. We're ready for almost another song. When the Germans started coming into America, 6 million come from the 1840s to almost World War I. That's a lot. Some books you'll read this, every fourth person has German blood in the United States. I asked my Cherokee relatives if that's true. They said it's not. But the Scott-Irish are in the Cherokees. Yeah. Anyhow, so the thing of it is that when they came, they settled in the northern part of the United States mainly because it was cooler and they could have their cows and their corn and farm their way. So if you go from Pennsylvania, where the Germans are called Pennsylvania Dutch, out to Ohio, where they kept moving west, and Wisconsin, the northern states, along with the Swedes and some Dutch and things like that. Then we have in the 1870s, Russian Germans. Here in Colorado, we got a bunch of them. So I'm going to talk about them just for a minute. And they came, the short history is, Katrina die Große. She was German herself. She killed her husband, and she became the Tsaress of Russia. 1763 was the Franco-Prussian War. We were busy over here calling it the French and Indian War. It took 7 years. Tore up Germany real bad. And she said, come, be farmers in Russia. And they went down the Volga River and they stayed there. And she said, you can keep your German language, no taxes. Sounds good so far. And she said, keep your religion. The Mennonites came who would not fight anyhow. And so here we have this. And then they left and they went to North and South Dakota, Nebraska. I'll get to the Catholics in a minute. Kansas. I'm telling this. No, Hays, Kansas is the Catholic area.
Yeah. I taught there.
Kannst du Deutsch schwätzen?
No.
You don't know Herman Dinges?
No, I don't.
Or Lawrence Weigel? Or Rudy Legleiter?
Yes, I do.
Rudy?
No, I don't.
He's not from Hays. See, I could check it out. Because anyhow, the Catholics went to Hays since he kept, I was getting to that. But I wanted to get to where we're at. Northern Colorado. As late as 1920, Sterling. Who's ever gone to Sterling before Nebraska? Yes. Bush out there kept German services till 1973. That's after the war. Most German communities by World War I gave up their German. A few survived World War II, but the Russian Germans, they had nothing to do with Russia and Germany. And Greeley, Windsor, Colorado, just north of them, the old ones up there talk German. And Loveland, and a bunch of other places, Fort Collins and the whole thing. And when they went out to milk the cows, they sang the same songs that the Germans did back in Wisconsin. And those of you, if you have a German grandmother, we're going to do a little medley of German cow milking songs. But they didn't start that way. When Grandpa went to the tavern, and the Lord's Day says Sunday, so the Germans opened on Sunday the taverns. This is before those Baptists could raise hell. They went in and they had they arrest, and this was German custom. And they sang, sing with me. Ach, du liebe Augustin, 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 ach, du liebe Augustin, alles ist hin. Jetzt ist weg, doch jetzt weg, alles liegt auf und weg. Ach, du liebe Augustin, alles ist hin. Heili, 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 Heilo, bei uns geht's immer, je länger, je schlimmer. Heili, 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 Heilo, bei uns geht's immer ja so. Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken, 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat er auch nicht 3 Ecken, ja nicht er auch nicht mein Hut. Zu Lauterbach hab ich 2 Stunden verloren. Ohne Stund geh ich nicht heim. Drum geh ich heute wieder auf Lauterbach und kauf mir rasch zum kleinen Wein. See, when you're milking a cow on a one-legged stool, the English say, you can't have a stool. See, they're not Germans. The Germans put a belt on, and then you can have one. You've never seen this. In Bavaria, they still do it in Switzerland. And then you can move fast from cow to cow, and she smacks you with your tail, and it's wonderful. And with their tongue, they can clean out the boogers in their nose. There's kids here in Colorado Springs never saw a cow, how long that tongue is. But we know. And that was part of the German culture, and somehow beer had something to do with it, but I'm not going to talk about that because this is kind of a public thing. And I know how anti-beer they are. Depression came along in 1920. What kind of civilized people would take their beer away? The beer that had enough alcohol that helped them get through the plague. It helped the Pilgrims come. The Pilgrims were heading for Virginia. Look in your book, it'll say they went to Plymouth Rock. Why? Well, we got these weird religions. We don't want to talk about. They were out of beer. They went to Plymouth Rock to brew beer. Get on your internet. The truth is there. And so every little kid got a half liter, which is not a glass. That's, and so they went in there, and then they said their seeds would not grow, which would have grown. Half of them died. The Indians fed them, but that's another story. They get no credit. No Indians were invited to a Thanksgiving, by the way. I know that from the Cherokees. Anyhow, they took it and they ran, All right, so then what happened? Well, we're in the Civil War. The Germans in the North played an important role. They really, I don't want to say they won the Civil War. I want to say the cavalry was developed by Germans. Lincoln, that was a new party, the Republicans then. There was the Whigs before that, and the Germans from Cincinnati, St. Louis, and all this. Meanwhile, they kept coming in, and the taverns, and the beer, and everybody was happy when there was beer. And in 1920, right after World War I, up until then, Budweiser and Schlitz, they had enough money to keep these people that said no alcohol. But after World War I, the Germans lost power. The Bund was not a Nazi organization originally. It was a union of German businessmen. And some guy said we should have went with the Kaiser, and he got arrested in St. Louis, and things like that happened. And then the beer was gone till 1933. And who got rich? The Italians. Yeah, the bootleggers. Al Capone and those Chicago guys, they took over, and the Germans were out there on the farm drinking their cider, and wishing they had a good beer, but they always had it. If you go to Bavaria, every farmer has a still in this somewhere. And I'm not exaggerating those of you that are, ask your German neighbors, yes, Weinbrennerei, you got to have a little schnapps. You don't waste fruit. You put it all together. It's called an Obstler. When you have this peach and plum and anything that's starting to rot, and I bet you if you went out to Hays, Kansas, you would find some of those too. And I bet you even a priest know about it, but I don't want to go too far with this. And then they would sing songs like this. In heaven there is no beer. That's why we drink it down here. 'Cause when we're gone from here, our friends will be drinking all our beer. In German, im Himmel, da gibt's kein Bier. Drum trinken wir es hier. Und sind wir nicht mehr hier, Jahren saufen uns die anderen unser Bier. Bier her, oh ich komm Bier her, oh ich komm. Soll das Bier im Keller liegen und Ferion macht kriegen. Bier her, oh ich komm. Bring on the beer before we all fall out. Okay, beer here, holy fun. Should the beer be down the cellar? I'm sitting here a thirsty feller. Beer here, holy. Everybody in heaven, there is no beer. That's why we drink this beer. And when we're gone from here, our friends will be drinking all our beer. Now, in that short time, we've caught up to my age. I was just a little kid, you know, and I go, we always had beer and wine. How come we can't get a beer on Sunday in Missouri? And because we had all those weird religions around us. And yeah, what do you know, and they thought they were doing the right thing, you know. And then there was, I think Missouri law said 400 gallons of wine for your own use you could produce. But that shut down the wineries at Herman, Missouri, and other places where Granddad came and worked for a short time at Sart's Winery, and my childhood memories are there. But we always had it. And we kids wanted soda pop once in a while. We'd take that out, that sugar. Drink your beer, shut up. We had the right culture, and I didn't even know it. And then I said, Grandma, when I go over to Martinsville, why don't I understand them? She said, they're talking Plattdeutsch, Low German. Oh, so I started learning about these dialects. Well, how come Tom talks different and how come Granddad's German's different from your German? He calls a potato a Grumbier, and you say Erdäpfel. And the teacher says Kartoffel in school, so I had 3 words, you know. I said, hell, I'll just talk English. The Germans can never make up their mind on anything. They start calling them stubborn Dutchmen. We always got called Dutch over here, you know, and I figured that out. You say German, they think of guns and tanks. You say Dutch, they think of windmills and chocolate. So, Pennsylvania Dutch. It's all right with me. Die Schweizer Deutsch miteinander. Here's a little Pennsylvania German in case you didn't. Mijn oude Schwiegermoeder, 7 Jahre was ze im Himmel, komt sie wieder runter. Was sie didn't do this wipe, als sie didn't Himmel bleibt, sollte man net een Kugel gießen und die Eile wieder schießen. And if you understand that, I'm proud of you. If you're from Kaiserslautern, it's half of your dialect. They came there, William Penn said, hey, come to America. And they came 1683. Philadelphia, and they went north, and it was called Deutschstadt, and today it's called Germantown, those of you from back east. And then they moved out there and ruined the whole neighborhood for all the beautiful Indians that were there. But, yeah, we stole this country, let's admit it. You know, it wasn't just in Europe where they took it. Here we go with a song that came along. We did In Heaven There Is No Beer. And somehow the beer gardens got associated with German music. And it was real good right up till, when that Schickelgruber kid, what was his name? We call him Schickelgruber. I think it was Hitler or something like that. But anyhow, when he came in, they took the German churches down. They took the German off the way. Some states made it illegal to teach German. Talk about a dumb move. Because you want to be able to talk to the enemy. Guess what? We can't talk to the Arabs. So God knows how long this will keep going. If we would teach it, we could. But we luckily had all these immigrant kids that went. And I've talked to a lot of them that handled prisoners and spoke German and understand, But here we are with a great song that we're going to call a German song, even though the Czechs wrote it. But aren't the Czechs really Germans? They were under the Austro-Hungarians. It's called Skoda or something like that in Czech, but Rosamunda. And then those McGuire sisters called it Beer Barrel Polka. And the GIs. Here we go with Susie Squeezer. Skip the water, get a beer, roll out the barrel. We'll have a barrel of fun. Roll out the barrel. We got the blues on the run. Sing Herrera, sing out a song of the cheer. Now's the time to roll the barrel. For the kings are here. Rosamunda, shake me like Hansel and Gretel. Rosamunda, sparkle is yes, Mama. Rosamunda, I'd lie dich hier destroy. Dancer von der Rosamunda, ist mein Herz gerade noch frei. Now the Germans brought their Geige, which is the violin, and only wealthy people had pianos. And that was true in Europe and in America. Little rich girls had the piano lessons in the parlor room, and that. This is the piano for the poor kids. It's easier to carry too. You don't see nobody walking around with a piano making any money. But you know, they come out, and the classical music, and you know, and it's not just German, but the Czechs, the Poles, the Italians. More accordions are made in Italy than in the other place. The French too. All of Western Europe, the folk music, the guitar, which comes from the gypsies, but so we call it the Spanish guitar. Well, the gypsies were in Spain, in the flamenco music. Beautiful instrument for that. And the Germans didn't know how to do that, so it became part of the zither. My grandfather's zither's in the Edelweiss Restaurant with 32 strings on her, and I learned to play it, but you got to sit down. I'm, like to talk. Have you noticed? Yeah, so I got to walk around. Well, then came a song in the Civil War era that the Union troops sat around the campfire at Gettysburg, Chattanooga, all these battlegrounds, and they said, listen, the Germans are singing, and you know this song if you have a German grandmother. If you don't know this song, you've lost your German code. But I think half of you will know this. Links mir im Herzen, links mir im Sinn, macht's mir viel Schmerz, weiß nicht, wie gut ich hier bin. Ja, 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 weiß nicht, wie gut ich hier bin. Ja, 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 weiß nicht, wie gut ich bin. When I sing that, I picture these guys with their muskets and their blue uniform. There were a few Germans that fought for the South. Most of them, like I said, because of cooler climate, they went and fought for it. And they also swore allegiance to the United States of America. And they have Flag Day. You go to a German town, you'll see flag. And they also said, if I can't get the work done with my own two hands, it don't get done. I don't need no black man working for me as a slave. They died. They weren't ready to marry like today, but they did say slavery was wrong. Even the Germans in Texas, in Fredericksburg, Texas, and places like that, had to, how are we going to get up north to fight for the Union? And there's a story where these 40 boys were killed trying to get to Mexico, trying to come up to fight for the Lincolnists, as they call them. And it's a kind, but that old Du liegst mir Herzen, people come in that can't speak a word of German but remember, because grandmas use it as a lullaby. So this moves us up to the terrible time in Europe. And, and the neat thing about America, and I want to say this, the Russians, the French, they had a history of fighting. So when they really hated one another, they didn't want to date the girls. And as soon as the Americans could, they started dating German girls. They didn't hate anybody. They were doing their job. Eisenhower was a Dutchman. Pershing in World War I, Germany took Germans to defeat Germans. Yeah, it's crazy. And so, they had a whole, when they learned the language, their girlfriends, eating food that was out of this world. We don't get this back home. And they learn to eat the schnitzels and the things, and they really enjoyed Germany. And so a song that came out, sung in by a Swedish girl for the German boys, but a girl that went to California and made movies called Marlene Dietrich, sang it for the Americans in German and English. We'll do a couple lines of it here. And this was the one, the song, the best thing in my opinion that came out of World War II. Vor der Kaserne, vor dem großen Tor, stand eine Laterne und steht sie noch davor. Da wollten wir uns wiedersehen, bei der Laterne wollen wir stehen, wie einst in Marleen, wie einst in Marleen. Underneath the lamppost by the barracks gate, darling, I remember the way you used to wait. Was there that you whispered tenderly that you loved me, you'd always be my lily of the lamp delight, my own lily Marlene. Stockenstreichs. Had to put the German taps in there. Now, if I was in Germany, you said, well, what's typical American food? I have a hard time, because if I say that we took your Frankfurter and put it and called it a hot dog, and we took your fricadelle and made a hamburger, which because they came from Hamburg. But Germany has a variety, see, and so the costume I have on does not represent Germany no more than Texas boots and a 10-gallon hat and rhinestone cowboy. This is southern Germany, the Alpine look, and this is Bavarian. And that's where God lives, but I don't want to be. Why would he go to Hamburg and eat smoked eel when he could have Zwetschgedachi? Oh, that's the plum cake with the Hefe, how do you call it? Yeast. Hefe is yeast. And, and we good, and then you have a schnapps, you know. And Austrians, politics screwed everything up. Like Alsace-Lorraine, they still speak German, but they're French. The German parts of Poland are gone forever. And so Silesia, Pomeranian, the only thing left are little Pomeranian dogs. What's a Pomeranian? I said, Pomeranian, they talk Low German, you know. They wore the wooden shoes just like the Dutch, and they went out to sea. And the Bavarians were in the mountains with the cheese. We didn't know how to make cheese till the Romans came, I'll admit that. Because I can't drink any more milk. Well, it's spoiled. Drink. And so we start making cheese and put it in the cab. And then you put the cheeses on your back. And so you got to have good legs. There weren't any cars, believe it or not. It's hard to tell a 17-year-old your great-grandfather didn't have a car. Oh, come on, was he? Well, so your calves became your vara. Excuse me? So some people think these socks look funny. See, this makes my calf look bigger. Don't marry him, his legs are too skinny. Over here in America, guys wanted big arms, you know, because they were, I guess, harassed. And you couldn't wear a pistol in 1860, so we have our knives here, see. We call them Hirschfanger in Bavarian, and to bleed the deer. But if a Prussian from Berlin gets out of line, he could go home with one ear less. Yeah. And so the Northern Germans, do we have anything? Oh yeah, New York, the damn Yankees, and Dallas, Texas, and Nashville. Sometimes the cultures clash, and that's the way so we not only talk different, we have different foods, and our music is different too. And so a good old Bavarian Ländler. Now what is a Ländler? It's kind of a fast waltz. And the boys that wore the leather pants would slap their feet and their pants, and we call it a shoeplattler. A shoe platter. No, a platter you eat off of. A shoe slapping dance. There's no way to translate some of these stuff. That's why these diplomats can never make peace. What did he say? Susan's going to play a little bit of a shoe platter here for us while I take a nap. I'll be back though. Auf geht's, Boden! Auf zur! Throughout the United States and Canada, we have clubs that keep these Edelweiss clubs that keep the shoe plattling, teaching the kids. Some of them don't even know German, you know, and they buy the Trachted and they take pride in it. We're wearing Bavarian clothing here, like the Lederhosen. No, they don't wear that in Hamburg, unless they're a drunk tourist getting off the bus, you know, coming back from his weekend in Bavaria, and they buy this stuff, but they never wear it. And the same way in the north, and each area has their own traditional folk costume. Hard to translate. A Tracht is a regional costume. Had nothing to do with Fasching or Halloween or this sort of thing. And she's in a dirndl, but that's not a true Tracht because it would go all the way down to her knees, and the women put silver. They spend $5,000 for this. They really take pride when they're in the Bavarian culture and Austrian, where the Alps are. And remember, this is very strong Catholic part of Germany, where the North Germans are Lutherans, and that's part of the historic friction and that. But the accordion has got around, but more so the Czech play. Now I play, and I was going to bring one, but then they said, you got 4 flights to come up. I'm an old guy, I'm not carrying no. So we made Susie carry the accordion, and anyhow, this is a beautiful, would you play just a little of the bass? It sounds like the tuba. But I'll play a little. that song? Ja, das ist die Liechtensteiner Polka, mein Schatz. Die macht Rabatz, mein Schatz.
Keep going.
That was one of, the accordion is part of the German, if not the only, it's a major part of the German culture. And if you ever get to hear the other one, we have here in Pueblo a large Slovenian community, and they play the button boxes. And a couple of Gary Kleinheim and J School are a couple of them, and they meet down here and they play. And this is also in Czechoslovakia. That came out in 1828. Cyril Daimut invented it. So it's diatonic. You get it home each way. And then the Italians, they say in San Francisco, put the keyboard, the piano, and so. But it went to Germany, and the tango in Argentina. I don't want to talk about the Argentinians. But they still love the Germans, really. 'Cause after the war, you could go to Uruguay, Argentina. You could, yeah. And guess where the second largest Oktoberfest is? You'll never guess. Kitchener, Canada. Who would have thought? Until you know that Kitchener was called Berlin, or Berlin, if you use American. Berlin, I don't know what's wrong with American English. It just would. It's a dumb. You got to go the. No other language has a the sound. Those are them there. You know, those are them there. See, it sounds just as pretty if you say it without the. And the French never learn to say the. Germans can. Edelweiss. How about a song that isn't German that represents Germany? Edelweiss. Noble white. This little flower, you can't see well with that light on. In fact, I haven't seen you all night because of that light, but I don't complain because I'm German. Or at least Germans all get along with everybody. We always want peace. We wanted a piece of France, a piece of Poland. But peace. Yeah, here we go with a little Edelweiss. The Sound of Music came out, and because I grew up here, and I remember when I was a kid, Germans dance with ants in their pants. I say, why do they say it? Nazi, Tazi, here comes a Nazi. And I go, Oma, warum sagen die sowas zu dir? Why did they say that? Well, and I was, but after Sound of Music, it was okay to speak German on the streets again. And there really was a prejudice. Did you know sauerkraut changed to Liberty cabbage? Anybody old enough to, our hamburger became Salisbury steak? Oh, yeah. And a lot, like in St. Louis, the Schilling House and the German House, they changed the different things. Now in Herman, Missouri, we still have Mozart Street, Schillerstrasse, and we never changed because we were a small community. The big community, Chicago, and that, here we go with Edelweiss. Pretend I look like Julie Andrews with a slight weight problem. Okay?
Blossom of snow, may you bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my home.
in German now.
Dies, wie Schneeglöckchen, bleib mir treu. Bleib mir treu fürs Leben.
Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bleib der Heimat ergeben. So when Susie picked me up from the gutter 9 years ago, she said, we should record some of your songs. You're not going to live forever. I said, yes, I am. She says, no, you're a fat guy. They don't live long. These damn programs they put, you know. I outlived 7 doctors. Of course, my doctors all drank a lot, you know. I didn't, but I do like this is, in German, you'd say Frikadelle Friedhof or a Hähnchen Friedhof. A graveyard for chickens or schnitzels. And in Bavaria, we look at a guy that doesn't have one of these. Yeah, don't get a cripple. There goes a cripple. You know, and this is true. I want the ladies that are from Germany say if they, in some parts of Bavaria, we got tables where they cut out like this. So the guy can get his mouth in there. Nowhere in the sunny south of America have I ever seen. But see, the culture's on a higher level. That's why God hangs out by the Zugspitze, you know, and sun's there. So when we did the CD, I said, okay, I want to do real German songs that the people like and that the grandma who came from Germany would enjoy. And she said, Edelweiss. I said, that's an American song, written by 2 Jewish guys in New York, Roger and Hammerstein. Hammerstein is, yeah, so what? They capture the spirit. That Edelweiss song, my grandmother used to sing, and only the people that are 100 years old will, "Der schönste Liebe auf der Arm, this is das Edelweiss." That was the old Edelweiss song. Anyhow, if you got a grandma, Susie will sell you one of these. I won't. Here we're gonna go and show off Susie with her skill. Let's see. She don't want to do clarinet polka when she's not. She likes the Fischerin. But how about Zillertaler Hochzeitsmarsch?
Yeah.
This is from Zillertal. If you go to Zillertal, you cross over from the language. Only the locals could tell. Somebody from North there, and we almost talk the same. And this is like what Nashville is, the country music. Why the Zillertal are Alpine music. The Tyroleans, they say Tiroler in German. And this is the Zillertaler Hochzeitsmarsch. Here we go.
Hochzeit macht das immer nur mit dir. Wenn ich nach einer Ringe frag, dann will ich das von dir. Wenn ich ohne Ja sag, dann sag ich nur zu dir. Immer nur zu dir.
You can have your Chopin, but that's music to me. See, it's the folk music. It's people and music, and when they danced and they got together, and before these accordions and that was the mouth harmonica, and that's. And I have not read this, but I know the Celts were in Germany before the Germans, and they wound up in England and the bagpipe. You see where I'm going? The bagpipe. Here were these little leprechauns playing their bagpipe. And then the Germans had to improve on it. The Einstein comes in, the Werner von Braun, and the ingenuity, and so the accordion, his name is Cyril, Cyril, a name you hear in Europe but rarely hear, and my father had that name, Diamant. And we're going to get ready here. I got to just check and see, is it time to milk the cows? I put her on the tail, and then I hold the bucket and spritz the kittens. Did you ever spritz? See, just imagine your generation. You never milked a cow. You just, yeah, we're pretty close. So I got time for one request. If somebody'd like to hear a German song they haven't heard, if they were thinking of it, this is it. Going once. That went off the charts at 45, sir. Move to the back of the room. Yeah.
Das Wandern ist des Müllers.
Das Wandern ist des Müllers. We're going to do that, and then I'm going to play Auf Wiedersehen, which means until we meet again. And it's been fun for me to run my mouth and share some of this. But I think you were, I was looking for those 16-year-olds that might learn that English and German are related, but you guys knew everything, so I just had fun here. Das Wandern ist des Müllers. In Germany, you had to be an apprentice, a journeyman. We use that word, but no one knows what. They actually journeyed. Yeah, these are all, and then you went to a master, not a college master, but a master in the trade, and he wrote you a letter, and that's how why the Germans were excellent bakers, bricklayers, and just all. In fact, the girls come over and get the hairdressing jobs, because if they are trained, they train well in Germany, and you travel as an apprentice. And this song talks about just like the mill never is quiet or shuts down, the miller should have the Wanderlust, the wanderlust. We have that in English, right? Wanderlust? It's a German word, Wanderlust, to travel and enjoy the birds in their hair.
Das Wandern ist des Müllers, das Wandern ist des Müllers, das Wandern. Das muss ein schlechter Meile sein, dem niemals fiel das Wandern ein, dem niemals fiel das Wandern ein, das Wandern.
Everybody repeats, das
Wandern, das Wandern, das Wandern, das Wandern, das Wandern. Vom Wasser haben wir's gelernt, vom Wasser haben wir's gelernt, vom Wasser. Das hat mich Ruhe bei Tag und Nacht, ist stets auf Wandelschaft bedacht, ist stets auf Wandelschaft bedacht. Das Wasser, das Wasser, das Wasser, das Wasser, das Wasser, das Wasser.
That's why people talk about German hiking songs. Mein Vater, I love to go wandering, all of this. And it was a German custom. Your dad took you hiking on Sundays. I don't think the young generation is doing that anymore over there. But I live in Colorado, so we drive cars. That's another thing. And I remember my grandma. There was no German for prohibition. And she says, yeah, what's so this? I said, was haben die Amis getrunken? What the Americans drink? I said, Wasser? Ja, pfui Teufel. She said, don't they know what the fish do in the water? Dumb Americans. And we called it alcohol forbidden, because prohibition was a crazy idea, and maybe we're going through this. I don't know anything, and I'm not saying whether we allowed this stuff in the small group. Just from my view, it doesn't seem much worse than, and if they make tax it like everything else. But anyhow, I'm not talking about that. This is I want to do Auf Wiedersehen. Wir haben schon 7 Uhr. But I will never say no to you. Not at my age. I may not get up tomorrow. She wants to do the Wandersmann because she wants to hear you go, Valerie. But I looked out and saw, these are old folks like me. They're not going to sing Valerie, or will you?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. All right. Me. When you got a voice, me, you can either be a good pig caller or you can play a guitar and do this. Mein Mann, der war ein Wandersmann, steckt's auf im Mund. Drum wandere ich froh, solang ich kann, und trinke meinen Mund. Valerie, Valera, Valerie, Valera, Valerie, Valera, und ich trinke meinen Mund. Das Wandeln schafft sich Frisches, erhält das Herz gesund. Freiheit mit draußen meine Brust, froh singet stets mein Mund. Valerie, Valera, Valerie, Valera, Valerie, Valera, froh singet stets mein Mund. Hillbilly. I'm back in the Ozarks. Valerie Echo, Valera, Valera, Valerie, Valerie. Now in Anglo-Saxon. Or you call it English. I love to go a wander along the mountain side. As I go, I love to sing my little sack on my back. Valerie, Valera, Valerie, Valera, Valerie, Valera, my rucksack on my back. Dr. Shea, if you do that every morning, you don't need those CPAPs or those concentrators to breathe and sleep, because you just take it in your lungs, you know it's good for you. Did you have a question, you know? I'll translate for Susan. Didn't you think she does a wonderful job on that accordion? How come the accordion isn't popular? It's not popular with today's kids. They will play these damn things. And then they put electric on there, and there goes your house current, and your bill goes up, and, you know, and the house burns down when the lightning hits. It's, I guess everything changes. It should be at the time. And is Germany the same as my grandmother's? No. And is America the same? No. So I'm glad we shared a little bit of culture, and thank you for having us down here. If you want to talk about a CD, talk to her, because I'm above that sort of thing. Yeah, right. You tell, she's from New York. She goes, how much are they?
How much are they?
Yeah.
How much are they?
I said to talk to
They're
you.
$15. Thank you, dear.
What's next?
Are we doing Auf Wiedersehen?
Are we gonna do anything?
All right. I tell that some of you are making fun of my Alzheimer's. But you get as old as I am, and it could happen to you, you know. Yeah.
And remember, Alzheimer's was going.
Yeah, it was.
Probably. It does sound like a German name, but it could be. Well, no, I thought we sang it already. Or I was going to do that, and then some little girl said, let's do Wandersmann. Screwed up my whole program, you know. Why do the women rule this world? I didn't say it was wrong. Maternal societies, because the Cherokees, they have 7 clans, and every little child belongs to its grandmother. So there's no such word as a bastard or like son of a bitch. You always have family. And these words were real strange when the Europeans came and said, well, that be it. And the Indians, when they had their clan, and the women decided if they went to war or not. Well, I wasn't supposed to talk about Indians. But see how she's pushing me again? I love every minute of it, though. Auf Wiedersehen. Auf Wiedersehen. Bleib nicht so lang bevor, denn ohne dich ist halb so schön. Darauf hast du mein Wort. Auf Wiedersehen, auf Wiedersehen, das eine Grau nachher wird es noch mal so schön, das Wiedersehen mit dir. Accordion. What's in English? Anglo-Saxon. Auf Wiedersehen. Auf Wiedersehen. The time has come, sweetheart. This happy day has gone away. The time has come to part, but we'll meet again, like this again. Maybe we'll fool around again, my love, with a heart that's true. I'll wait for you. Auf Wiedersehen, sweetheart. I ran out of juice, don't I? For those of you that only speak English, I'll translate Auf Wiedersehen for you. Adios. Since you live in Pueblo, you.
Weren't they wonderful? Give them a nice.